He said, Bruce, it's easy to make a sale, but did you make a client? Did you make a client out of him?
Sage advice.
And I answered, I don't know. And then you probably didn't. And it's very hard to make a new client, but very easy to make a sale.
How you can be the greatest salesperson on the planet.
And Bruce, something that's interesting about your niche, as you call it, is it's very customer focused. So what did that look like for you? And when you talked a couple episodes ago about meeting this guy and how this guy tweaks some things in your life, what did that look like for you, just serving the customer in your men's clothing industry? And what did that look like after you connected with this guy?
I'll tell you what it looked like after.
Okay.
What it looked like after was Jim and I had first just started discussing this. And he said to me, every customer, you should see it on their forehead, MFI. I don't know if you remember.
You're
this.
like, huh?
Absolutely.
Make me feel important.
So MFI was easy, make me feel important. Also, what added value could you do to make clients feel important?
Yeah.
So we would do that as a whole team. Listen and then fulfill their needs. Like my father used to tell me, it's easy to sell. You're a salesman. But making a client is so much harder. You want to make a client.
Lovely.
And I'll just give you a quick example of that. When I was in college, I came home to work at the business. So when he came back, he said, Bruce, how'd you do? And I said to my dad, I'm like, I sold this guy 5 suits. And even back in the day, that was a good sale.
Yeah.
It was a good sale. And I was really excited. And I looked at my dad, and he was excited, but not as much as I thought he would be. Like, I thought I'd be getting the high fives and all that type of
Trophy
feeling,
time.
right? And my first thing my dad said, did he need the 5 suits? And I'm like, I don't know, Dad. But I kept on showing him, and he kept on buying. But he said, Bruce, it's easy to make a sale, but did you make a client? Did you make a client out of him?
Sage advice.
And I answered, I don't know. And then you probably didn't. And it's very hard to make a new client, but very easy to make a sale. And I took that advice, and I would tell my crew, when this was years later, decades later, I'd say if a client comes in, and even if we cannot satisfy what they need here, if they go out and they're with their friend or their spouse, and we can overhear them saying, that was a good experience, even though we weren't able to buy the suit, that is just as much as a win, because they will come back.
Yes.
If they had a good experience, even if they weren't able to satisfy the need of buying a Hawaiian shirt for an outdoor wedding. And make me feel important is what we always tried to do at Burke's. And that's how you build a foundation of building a clientele. So at the end of the year, you know the next year, we already have this much revenue in because we have this many clients. And we can build it from the foundation to search for new clients because we already had what would be a baseline.
Baseline.
Like how much we were going to do that year. And it could go up or down, but we weren't going to be at 0 and we weren't going to be at 5 million either.
Right. Yeah. Jim, he's reading out of your playbook here.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, the bottom line is that at the Jim Shorkey Family Auto Group, and believe it or not, this came out of the Great Recession and out of a thing that I developed at the time called the Prosperity Plan. And the answer to the Great Recession was, okay, here's the Great Recession, worst recession since the Great Depression. It was really bad. And what are we going to do? And so I came up with this plan called the Prosperity Plan. And along the way came these 3 ideas. And I said to my people, my team, I said, this is what we're going to do. Number 1 goal of this plan, of the Jim Shorkey Family Auto Group within this plan, is to love the customer. And I do mean love the customer. Hug them, kiss them, speaking figuratively, of course, but we want to love on our customers. Because if we don't love our customers, there won't be any customers, okay? So we got to love our customers. I didn't say sell our customers. I said love our customers. Okay. Number one. The second number one goal of the Jim Shorkey Family Auto Group was to love the team. And I do mean love them. Hug them, kiss them, love on them. Figuratively speaking, again, of course, we got to love our team, because if we don't love our team, then there's not going to be anybody to love the customers. And it implodes from there. If we don't have anybody to love the customers, how are we going to accomplish goal number one, which is to love the customers? There's nobody to do that. So it implodes. Now, if we do number one really well, and we do number one really, really well, love the team, love the customer, or love the customer, love the team, excuse me. There's no order. But if we do those two really well, we get to be really successful. We sell a lot of clothes. We make a lot of money. We do great things. We get the trophies. We get the trips. We get the awards. We get the standing ovations. We do a lot of great things. That said, the number one enemy of any successful enterprise, be it a church, be it a marriage, be it a relationship, be it a business, be it a family, whatever it is, any successful enterprise, I don't care what it is, the number one enemy of that enterprise is arrogance. So if you think about it, you're running a business and you're arrogant because you got all these awards. Well, guess what? You're going to push people away. And who are you going to push away? You're going to push the customers away, and you're going to push the team members away, certain ones. So you're working against yourself. You're pushing people away. So the number three goal, almost number one, of the Jim Shorkey Family Auto Group became keep it very humble. We're not going to go with arrogance. And that was, by the way, the one that got violated the most. And so I left the business in 2016, and the children now own and operate it exclusively, independent of myself and Amy. We have no voice by design. The kids needed to have their wings. And so that's what happened. And we don't own the business at all. We have no stock at all in the business. None. Zero, zip, nada. And in the process of them doing their thing, they decided they needed to change that mission statement. And they spent days and weeks, and I think maybe even months, trying to figure out what they could say today under their reign, and they're running the business now. They own the business, excuse me. What do we want to say that makes sense? And they tried. They had meeting upon meeting and mastermind alliances and everything. Couldn't improve on it. Couldn't change it. They couldn't come up with something better. And so that is the mission statement of the Jim Shorkey Family Auto Group. And are we 100% good at that? No, we're not. But when we find ourselves in violation, the business suffers. And so we're going to go back to that, improving on that to where maybe we're at 90%, maybe we're at 80%, whatever. I don't know the number. But can we make it better? And in making it better, is there opportunity in making it better? Yes, there is. And the next question is, are we loving the team as well as we could? Yeah, I think we are. Let's think about it. Let's talk about it. You know what? I think we can improve on that one too. Let's do it. Let's love the team better. And so as we get better at loving the client, the customer, and as we get better at loving the team, and as we get better at keeping it very humble, the business accelerates. And since I don't know the number, I can't tell you the math, but I can tell you for a fact, I left in 2016, that business is better by an order of magnitude, at least 5 times better. And I think it's north of that. And I don't know. I'm not going to get involved. I don't really want to even know the math, but I'm telling you, it's an order of magnitude better because they kept the mission statement and they're doing the mission statement. And that is the Jim Shorkey legacy. And now you know.
Wow. Thank you, guys. Thank you, gentlemen. There's nothing else to say there. It's so impactful and so powerful on how to
Thank you.
How to just love the team, love the customer, and keep it very humble. So, Bruce, thank you for just sharing what that looked like and the struggles that you had and how you overcame them. And Jim, just that legacy that gets put forth. Go ahead.
Do you know who Jim Shorkey is?
Sounds like a trick question.
Do you know who Jim Shorkey is? It's a very direct question. It's not a trick question.
Yes.
Who is Jim Shorkey?
A man who keeps it very humble.
Nope. You got it wrong. No, you got it wrong. I'm going to try. My name is not Jim Shorkey.
Your dad.
My name is James Ronald Shorkey Jr. My son is James Ronald Shorkey III. My dad is James Ronald Shorkey. My dad is Jim Shorkey. Mm-hmm. If my name was on the building, it would be Jim Shorkey Jr. Family Auto Group. It's not. That's my dad. Jim Shorkey is my dad, and I'm named after my dad. But my birth certificate, my passport says James Ronald Shorkey Jr., okay? And so when we talk about Jim Shorkey, the true legacy is my father and my mother.
Yeah.
Because without them, there is no Jim Shorkey sitting here right now. It's called biology. So without them, there is no conception.
Yeah.
So there's no Jim Shorkey. There's no Jim Shorkey III. There's no grandchildren. It all starts with them.
Yeah.
And so the legacy is not my legacy.
Right.
It's my dad's legacy.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty big burden to carry.
Yeah. He took the initial
He
risk.
took the initial risk, yes. And he and my mother created me. And that's pretty powerful stuff, isn't it? It sounds graphic and crass, but it is a fact.
Right.
Let them
Yeah. There'd be no.
copulating.
Yep.
There is no me. And if there is no me, everything downstream for me evaporates.
Yep.
Think about that. That's deep.
It's deep.
So I'm living the legacy of my father, and I feel like very strongly that I'm honoring my father. And I'm not going to discuss it, but there's a thing that's going to happen that is very emotional, it's very powerful, that we'll talk about it in a future episode. I can't talk about it now. And it is a business thing. And all I'm going to tell you about it is my dad is coming back home. That's the only thing I'm going to tell you. My dad is coming back home. And there will be pictures, and there will be video, and there will be conversation. My dad is coming back home.
Wow.
And like we've said about Chuck Bellino lives on through us guys right here. And my dad lives on exactly the same way through us guys right here. He's living. My dad is still living. He's very vibrant. No, I can't talk to him today. No, I can't hug him today. I wish I could. But he's still living. You believe me, he is. He's still living. And it's a very emotional thing for me. I miss my dad. I met with my dad every day in the morning at 8:30 in the morning, every day. And we talked a lot about business, but we also talked a lot about life.
Yeah.
We might have talked about Hoosiers one day. We might have talked about Lonesome Dove one day. We might have talked about a certain thing that he had in mind one day. And we also talked a lot about sales and the numbers, and we didn't do this right or that. There was a lot of business discussion. But I met with my dad every morning at 8:30 in the morning, and I miss that. I do. And he was a pain in the neck. He was, in a lot of respects. But it was a good pain. It was a good pain.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it at that. But there's going to be an event happening. You'll know about it when it happens. But I'm just telling you right now, my dad's coming home. I'm not letting this thing die. I'm not. And it's not that I shouldn't say I'm not letting it die. We're not letting it die as a family. My dad is the genesis. My mother and father are the genesis of this whole thing that we have today called the Jim Shorkey Family Auto Group.
Yeah. And now it bleeds into results from thinking and rethink you.
Yep.
All of that.
It's all connected.
That really strikes home with me because I think the same way. Like my great grandfather started the store. Tobias Berkowitz was his name. And then my grandfather, Samuel Burke, took it over from him, bought it from him. And then my dad, Marvin Burke, bought it from my grandfather. Then I bought it from my father. And even though the ups and downs of the business over all those decades, and of course the decades that I controlled it, it was not going to fail. It could not fail. Not because of me, because my grandparents and great-grandparents and my dad, it wasn't going away. And I was up early and leaving.
Stayed late.
And stayed late. And my wife still said, you used to go to work at 7:30 and the store didn't open till 10. And I didn't even realize that I did that. But I believe her. I did. But it wasn't really of course it was for me and my family. I wanted to make sure my family had a home to stay in. But there was a lot of legacy involved in that too. And it wasn't going away. And it's still not, because the person who purchased it from me gratefully keeps the name.
I got to tell you one more story about this. My dad died March 24th, 1996. And I say every single time I bring this up that if I knew half as much as I thought I knew when my dad died, I would have been really smart. So I'm running the business. It was my big chance. I'm going to make it bigger than ever. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm doing my thing. 2 years later, in 1998, I am bankruptcy imminent. A negative $100,000 in the bank account. Total panic in my body. So I'm not going to name names. I go to my good friend at the bank, and I borrowed $100,000 to get the bank account floating again. And then it was time to go to work. And that's when I went to Mr. Hamilton, and I got my list, and I started working. The needle starts moving. And he told me to talk to he told me he was brilliant, all kinds of different ideas. So one of the things I did per his advice was to call Chrysler Corporation, because that was Jeep. Mm-hmm. And I talked to Jimmy Lawn. I will give you his name, a close friend of my father's and myself. And I bring Jimmy Lawn in, and I told him my situation. He's looking at my financial statements, and he asked me a very poignant question that I didn't have an answer for, which is not cool. I didn't know, and which shows how stupid I was. And he said, Jim, here's what I would be willing to do for you. He says, we have an auditing team that we will bring in, no charge, and they will audit your books, and they will give you a list of things to do. Back to the list. So they'll audit your books. They'll go through. This is an accounting thing. This is a profit and loss, balance sheet, the whole thing. Okay, I'm in. Let's do it. So they come in and they did their thing. They came in. They're sitting in my dad's office. It was my dad's office. And one of the things I was given advice years before that when you're in a meeting like that, you should always come out from behind the desk. It makes people feel more comfortable. So I come out from behind the desk. I'm sitting where I'm sitting at right now. One of the guys from Chrysler is sitting here. Another two are over here. And I told him the whole story about my dad, and I was in bad shape and all these different things. And he's got tears in his eyes. And he says, Jim, he says, do you still want to do this? I said, what do you mean? Do I still want to do this? I said, of course I do. That's why I brought you in. He says, no. He points behind the desk. He says, do you still want to sit behind that desk? I said, let me tell you something. I've wanted to sit behind that desk for my entire life. I am not going to be defeated. And I said these exact words. If I got to work 26 hours out of the next 24, that's what I'm going to do. I said, I'm not going to be defeated. And I know they thought, yeah, sure. And fast forward a little bit, I did what they told me to do. I got the list. I did what I was told. And I turned it around. So I'm sitting with Chuck Molina, and I'm telling the story exactly like I am right now. And I said, Chuck, I could sense it. Because when I listen, you listen with your eyes and you listen with your ears. Make sure you're engaging these guys, folks, if you want to be an active listener, because roughly 60% of communication is nonverbal. You'll learn things if you listen with your eyes. It's called active listening. Leave that up to the side. So I'm talking to Chuck, and I said, Chuck, I said, you don't believe me, do you? He says, Jim, he says, you're a salesman, man. You're a salesman. No, I don't believe you, basically. I said, okay. I said, I'm going to call my accountant. Call the accountant, and he has since died. I'll leave his name out of it. He has since passed. And he came as a result of the bankruptcy imminent. My former accountant, my dad's accountant, was not reporting properly to me. My fault, because I didn't ask the right questions, but I got this accountant from somebody else. I think it came through Mr. Hamilton somehow, some way, whatever the case may be. But anyways, I have a new account, and that all was history. And he also gave me ideas of what to do. He's looking at my financials. So I called Tom Hugo. I have him on speakerphone. This thing's right in the middle of the table, and I'm sitting with Chuck around the table at Berry Bush. And I said, Tom, I said, you're on speakerphone. And I said, let me ask you a question, Tom. Do you remember when you came to work for me? He said, yes, I do, very clearly. I said, was I bankruptcy imminent? And he starts laughing. I said, what are you laughing for, man? He says, you were way beyond bankruptcy imminent. You were falling off a cliff. I said, Tom, let me ask you a question. Did you think I could get out of that mess? And in his irreverent way, he said, there's no way in hell. Nope, you're not getting out of this. I got a massive chill right now. I said, one more question, Tom. Did I get out of the mess? He says, boy, did you ever. Because he was my accountant. He knew the math. He knew the numbers. Yeah, you did. Holy cow, did you ever? And I said, thanks, Tom. I got to roll. And I look at Chuck. I said, all right, Chuck, what do you want to talk about now? And that changed everything.
Good stuff. It's good stuff.
He said, we got to get this out to the public. And that's where the interview process started with. How did you do it? Well,
Yes.
here's what I did. And Rethink You, actually it was Journey to Success came out of that. And then you guys,
Rethink
you know
yeah.
the story. I'm
Yep.
not going to get into that. But yeah, I wasn't going to make it, man. It was really bad.
Whew. Thank you, guys. Thank you,
Yeah.
Bruce. Thank you, Jim. Yeah, just thank you for sharing that story of just loving the team, loving the customer, and then the pitfalls that you had, the moments where, man, I'm not going to make it.
But
I'm
don't
not gonna
forget
make
about
it.
what Bruce said. I'm sorry. I didn't really hit that as hard as I wanted to. It was about the legacy. How could I let that, how could I let that be my dad's legacy? How could you let that be your dad's legacy, your grandfather's legacy, your great-grandfather's legacy? How could you let, after all these years, like, you're going to
Yeah.
be the one that screws it up? No way. This ain't happening. So really it was, the legacy is what drove me,
To love the customer and
I
love the team.
have
Yeah.
to do this. I cannot be defeated because that would ruin me. That really would have ruined me. And I would have bounced back from it, but there is no more Jim Shorkey Family Auto Group.
That's right.
It's not even in existence. And yes, I was very capable. I could have gone to work for another dealership, or I could have just gone and sold
Sure.
cars, or I could have moved up in the ranks again. And would I have been a dealer, car retailer? I don't know. I can't tell you that, but I was very successful. I would have been successful, but not to the degree
Yes.
that I became. But more importantly, my dad's legacy would have died. And I couldn't face that possibility. It wasn't going to happen. Not on my watch.
Yeah.
No way.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jim.